Hi, my name's Catherine, and this is going to be my love letter to neurodivergent people. If you are autistic or you are ADHD or both, I just want to take a minute to explain to you why you're awesome. And you guys know how this goes. Get yourself a snack, pull up a chair. We're going to make some art here today, and I'm going to tell you some stories. Today, we are painting over this piece of crap generic art I found at Goodwill for $9. I appreciate the sentiment here, don't get me wrong, but it's a little generic. Like, I just feel like maybe I can do something cooler or more interesting or just a little bit more personal with it. And by the way, I'm calling it generic. That is no shade. If you buy art from like Walmart or Target and decorate your house with it, that's cool. Do you, sweetie? Like, your house probably looks a lot better than mine. But I saw this piece and I couldn't resist it. It was really cheap, and the canvas itself is actually really nice. If I had bought like a brand new canvas in an art store this size, it would have cost a lot more money. So let's get going here. We're gonna start out today with some good old latex house paint, because that's what I got. I am not personally diagnosed on the autism spectrum, and you may be saying to yourself, Catherine, go to a doctor and get yourself diagnosed with autism or ADHD. Why are you out here being a problematic person on the internet self-diagnosing yourself? The answer is, well, I'm not trying to be. I actually made a whole video recently about self-diagnosis of autism and ADHD and why people do it. If you're interested to know why I haven't gone to an actual psychologist and gotten an evaluation and been diagnosed myself, this video explains it. Spoiler alert, it's mostly financial. The autism self-diagnosis video is actually what I want to talk about here today. This video got something like 1,000 views, which by the standards of my channel is actually an awful lot. Like, a lot of people watched it and a lot of people engaged with it. I love neurodivergent people because y'all leave some comments. If you were one of the people who watched and left me a nice comment there, thank you so much. I so appreciate you. It really resonated with a lot of people. And the comments I got really tickled me. And it just made me go, you know what? These are my people. I got more really intelligent, high quality, well thought out comments on that video than I have ever had the entire time I've been on YouTube. People shared so many stories about their own experience with autism and ADHD and being diagnosed or why they haven't been diagnosed. I got several comments from people that were like multiple paragraphs. Some people told me their whole life stories. There was someone who was diagnosed as autistic when they were 61 years old, and they shared like their whole experience of being autistic and being undiagnosed from like the 1970s on. People talked about their struggles with finding and affording therapy. People talked about the frustration of navigating the healthcare system and their opinions about what needs to be done to improve it. Someone also left me this comment. Thing is, neurodiversity isn't a disease. It's literally a feature. It's how we got this far. We don't need fixing. We need to fix the system. Healthy, normal, decent people are not the winners of late-stage capitalism for a reason. Can I tell you, when I read comments like that, I think to myself, maybe I'm not an alien after all. Maybe I do have people. When I get lengthy comments from people about this stuff, they almost always say something like, sorry, I talk too much, or sorry, I ended up writing a novel, or sorry, I kind of went off on a tangent there. Guys, listen, if this is literally the only thing I ever get to impart to you, if this is the only thing I ever say on this channel that sticks with you, please hear it. Please do not apologize for being the way you are. We have been so conditioned to believe that there is something wrong with us that we immediately go into this kind of shame and embarrassment anytime we realize that we've shown ourselves. There's an idea that people who are autistic don't have social skills, or that they are antisocial because they or we or whatever have a great tendency to be more interested in things rather than people. And we have a hard time knowing when to talk and when to listen. And we have a hard time focusing on things the way most people know how to focus. People think we aren't social and we don't want to connect. And at least in my case, nothing could be further from the truth. I live to connect with other people. Now listen, I am not an expert on anything. I mean anything at all. The only expertise I have to offer the internet is in DIY hair dyeing and writing to-do lists. That's it. But this is my observation. Neurodivergent individuals tend to seek connection with other people by sharing information. We are excited about the things we are interested in, and we want to bond with other people by sharing our passion with them. And that's one of the reasons why we talk a lot and we over-explain. And if you think I'm way off base with this observation, if it doesn't ring true for you at all, or you think it's stupid, please leave me a comment and let me know what you think. And don't apologize if it's really long. I have been teased, shamed, and criticized for my entire life for being excessively verbal. Like, not everyone was always mean about it. When I was a kid, sometimes older ladies, like I went by Kathy when I was a kid, and older ladies would really nicely be like, "Oh, she's a chatty Kathy," and they would be really sweet about it, but I could also tell I was low-key really getting on their nerves, and I was always so embarrassed about it. You know, and there were other people that weren't so nice. I don't know how much you can tell in these videos because I edit the hell out of them, but I have a great tendency to severely over-explain things, and I talk on top of other people constantly. It's really embarrassing. It's awkward. It's a problem I have, like, professionally when I'm trying to talk on the phone. I have a really hard time stopping what I'm saying and stopping, like, the impulse to just get my words out. I have a really hard time kind of controlling that. And I also have a really hard time knowing when it's my turn, you know? I am personally really, really wired to process things verbally. I have to talk my way through things. I talk to myself nonstop because it helps me organize my thoughts and process my emotions. I used to be incredibly embarrassed about that too. I was with a person for a long time who really shamed me for that. Like, it made them angry for some reason that I talked to myself all the time. And they would say things like, "I can hear you. Stop it. You sound like a crazy person. What is wrong with you?" And if you relate to anything I just said, I want you to know that this is a space where you never have to apologize for being yourself. I also got a lot of really interesting, compelling comments from people expressing their thoughts and opinions on self-diagnosis in general, and a lot of you were quite passionately in favor of it. A very popular comment was from someone who said, in substance, that I should not feel the need to attach labels to myself to talk about my own experience. And I really appreciate that. They also went on to say that a mental health diagnosis is really only a label that's a designation for being prescribed medication. I get where you're coming from with that. Western medicine is definitely obsessed with throwing pills at pretty much every problem, at least some of the time. But in general, I do think this is overly cynical. There are a lot of reasons why a formal diagnosis can be helpful to us in better understanding ourselves and our challenges. And I personally would really like to have some clarity around these issues given to me by someone who went to something like medical school. There are also therapies out there that don't involve medication or don't emphasize medication, like cognitive behavioral therapy. Cognitive behavioral therapy is good stuff. I mean, at least for me, it worked really well for me. So whether or not I ever decide to take a medication, I personally still really want a diagnosis. I also got a really good comment from a psychologist who chimed in and gave their thoughts on the rise of self-diagnosis. And they weren't nasty or disparaging about it at all. Their observation was that it really gives people a feeling of control, and we all like being in control. And I gotta say, there is undoubtedly truth in that. The other thing they mentioned, and I'm not exactly sure where this person is located, but they also pointed out that it's not just an American thing. It's not just the American healthcare system where that seems to be happening a lot. Like, it seems to be kind of a growing worldwide phenomenon. They also point out that just because somebody has a degree doesn't mean they're good at what they do and they know what they're talking about all the time, which I think is a really good point, and I appreciate a person with a degree recognizing that. And they also pointed out that it is becoming a really polarizing issue, which I would agree with, but I don't think that actually has anything to do with self-diagnosis. I think polarization is just a larger social problem we are facing. Like, mayonnaise is a polarizing issue at this point. Social media has really created these over-personalized realities that we can all live in, where we only have to hear things we already agree with, so that when we see or hear an opinion that differs from ours, we view it as like a personal attack. And honestly, we could all stand to get out of our little echo chambers and listen to other people's viewpoints a little bit more. That's kind of what I'm doing here on YouTube. My frustration with healthcare providers who are like really vocally against self-diagnosis is really just that they seem to be blissfully unaware that their services are really unaffordable to a lot of people. When I read my comments and my messages, that is far and away the biggest reason that people give for why they aren't being formally diagnosed. We're not all just out here being arrogant and stubborn and trying to snub doctors. A diagnosis costs money, and medication isn't free. And the cost of continued therapy is even more money. That was another really good comment I got, where somebody was talking about if you're struggling with mental health, it's really hard, just the energy that's involved in navigating the healthcare system and going and getting a diagnosis. And the cost of going and getting the diagnosis can be kind of prohibitive, but then there's the cost of keeping up with the diagnosis. Okay, you diagnosed me, what do? Do I keep coming back to you? I can't afford that either. I talked about that a lot in that video. And when I say that healthcare providers sometimes frustrate me in that way, I just want to be clear. I understand it's not their fault that the system works that way and that they are not personally getting rich off of this system. I would really like to see more healthcare providers advocate for affordable care and just have some empathy for the fact that this stuff is hard and it's not super attainable or super practical for a lot of people. So if you've made it this far into the video, I just want to say I love you. I appreciate you being here. Thank you for letting me talk for a really long time about some stuff I feel really passionately about. Please leave me a comment. Please subscribe. I don't know how to end a video.